This edition of MacVoices is brought to you by Take Control Books. The answers you need now from leading experts. Learn more and download yours at takecontrolbooks.com. Hi, I'm Chuck Joyner. MacVoices is in San Francisco for WWDC and the AltConference. I'm here with freelancer StuFF. He's going to talk about a number of things, the apps he does, a conference he runs, and anything else that we come across. StuFF, it's great to see you.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to see you.
So I guess let's start with, because you just told me a great story and I want to make sure we get that. You run something called the Objective-Cologne.
Yeah.
Okay. Objective-Cologne is?
It's a conference for iOS and Mac developers. It started in 2012, highly inspired by AltConference, obviously. I always wanted to have such a conference in actual Europe, which is a joke for my English friends. And so I thought Cologne, the city where I live, I've been living in Germany for the last 11 years, even though I'm not from Germany, is really in the center of Europe. And so I brought a couple of my friends, speakers like Mike Lee and other people like John Fox. And we started conference 2012, so we did it already twice, and this year we're coming back again in September.
That's great. That's great. And this, so that's coming up in September. But during the keynote, I think you said you decided to start a new conference.
Well, not exactly a new conference. I'm unsure about that. But here's the thing: the conference is called Objective-Cologne because of Objective-C. So when they announced Swift, I was like, okay, Houston, we have a problem with the name. And so I'm always thinking like, okay, does anybody have swiftconf.com already? Nobody has it, so it's mine. Now on Twitter, I got also at SwiftConf. So I won't, if I ever do something like that, I won't do a SwiftCon without an F, because this is a very non-smart idea. I'm going to tell all the English speaker why, because if you speak French, con, C-O-N, actually means dumb. So it's a very bad idea to call a conference con, because every time I'm looking at that, I'm like, it looks like Swift stupid or whatever. Yeah. So SwiftConf might be the next name for Objective-Cologne. It might be a new conference. I'm unsure, but I wanted to be sure that I have kind of a hold on the new Swift bandwagon.
This is what it's come to. Whenever you have an idea, even in the middle of a conference, you have to go and reserve the domain, reserve the Twitter handle. Yeah. You got to do it, because somebody will do it. And the worst thing is the squatters will do it, then want to charge you for it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I booked over the years so many domain names and whatever, and Twitter handles and domain names. Like a year later or 2 years later, I didn't even do anything out of them. So I remember having booked like WK-Conf for WebKit conference, because I was like seeing somehow a future to WebKit, but then I realized, okay, I'm not going to make anything out of it. So. Yeah, we'll see what happens with Swift. Being myself an iOS and Mac developer, I'm not just the guy who runs a conference. I actually did the conference because I wanted it as a developer. Those kind of conference. I can see the thing we are running into with Swift, which is just a brand new language, and it's probably going to become very big.
Yeah. Okay, so those are the conference things.
Yeah.
You also have a couple apps that you do.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure we talk about those too. Mm-hmm. The first one is Disk Alarm.
Yeah. So Disk Alarm is a tiny app which basically do something that OS X doesn't do. You set up a limit for your hard drive of free space at which you want to get an alarm, which is a sound alarm or just something pumping up on the screen telling you, oh, by the way, you only have 5 GB left. And it all boils down to, I do a lot of Final Cut Pro, for example, myself, or take a lot of pictures, and so it fills my hard drive. And I found out that it doesn't matter how big my hard drive is, I always manage to get it full. And
yeah, we all have that problem.
Yeah, so I know we all have that problem. So I figured out OS X is really stupid. Like, it's only telling you, oh, by the way, you only have 5 KB free, and that's it. And so everything starts being slow. So my app, you just tell it like 5, 10 gig or even 40 gig, and it gives you enough time. The tagline is "Tell me before it's too late," because basically when OS X tells you it is too late, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And moving files to another hard drive when your hard drive is full is really hard. So if you're lucky enough, your trash can is full and you can empty it. If it's empty, you're seriously in trouble. So that's one app. The other one that I did a little bit later was, so this app is actually even running on 10.6.8. And lucky am I, every time there is a new upgrade of the OS, I don't even have to change the app, it still runs, which is awesome. The other app is called Comments.app, and it's a very nice name. It wasn't taken on the App Store, and it's an app for WordPress comments. So it's basically for bloggers having one or more blogs, and they want to have, first of all, a native app instead of the web WordPress app, and an app who centralizes all the comments from all of their blogs at one place. So it allows you to approve and reject and reply. Just if you have a bunch of comments, it's actually very convenient. That's the two Mac apps that I do.
Are they both in the Mac App Store?
They are both in the Mac App Store,
okay, great.
And they're not outside. But I've been thinking about getting them outside of the Mac App Store. I don't know. I used to be a big fan of the Mac App Store, and over the last few months, I don't know. Actually, I'm unsure if it is the path we should all follow for all apps.
Well, it's a little difficult, and it's going to be very interesting to see now what develops as Apple seems to be loosening up or changing or making some other arrangements for apps to do things that they previously said, okay, you're in the sandbox and you can't do anything. So it's all changing.
So the big thing is all the frameworks. There are some things that we cannot do, like you cannot do iCloud, or you cannot do, I think, if I remember correctly, I think you cannot do MapKit if you're not on the Mac App Store. Obviously, in-app purchase and Game Center.
Right.
I don't use any of those stuff in my two Mac apps, so they could totally be outside. The sandbox is actually more of a problem. But on my iOS app, which I'm hopefully about to launch, I use Game Center and in-app purchase and all those stuff. But on iOS, it's easier because you don't have to ask yourself,
right?
Do you want to be up the App Store or not? Because you have to be.
I wanted to go back to Disk Alarm for a second, because I think a lot of people will say, well, how do you get caught in that situation? Well, you get caught, as you said, you're importing pictures and suddenly you've imported too many and you're stuck. Or for me, I can be rendering video and it's just grinding away, rendering it out until it hits the wall and says you have no more room left.
Yeah.
And as you said, then you're stuck.
Yeah.
So it's not a small thing, and it's a problem that's more common than a lot of people realize.
Well, there is a little difference since 10.7. It's an interesting history I have to tell about the change. The Finder since 10.7 doesn't show the actual space left if you use if you have a time capsule or something like that, if you do backups with Time Machine, because it has what's called mobile backups, which is that a copy of your backup from your time capsule is on your laptop. It only works for laptop. I had those customers when 10.7 came telling me, hey, Disk Alarm is lying. It's telling me I only have 10 gig free, but the Finder tells me I have 15 gigs free or whatever, or the other way around, I don't remember. The truth is, I'm not lying, but the Finder is lying. So if you go in the terminal and you do a DU, which is disk usage, then you will see that it is actually what Disk Alarm does. But those mobile backups, what happens is if you run out of space, the Finder, or actually Apple, will start deleting those backups, local backups. And then all of a sudden you had 0 kilobyte free, but you have another 2 gigabyte free. Yeah. So that's kind of a neat little trick which Apple, but basically I don't have any API to not lie or to lie. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, to tell you the truth, I would lie just like Apple, because this is what people would expect.
Right.
But yeah, this is interesting. But yeah, it's a lifesaver for many people.
I can see how it would.
Yeah.
So I've been asking everyone, for your projects, for your apps, and what you're doing in the future, what struck you as the most important from yesterday's keynote?
Well, there was a bunch of stuff. This year. I didn't win the lottery, so I watched the keynote on the streaming like many other people. But I've been 5 times to WWDC before, and this is the first time that I see so many stuff. So Swift is definitely the big thing, because it's a new language. So how many times do you learn a new language in your life as a programmer? Not so often. I actually asked Wolf Wrench, that question, and he told me, yeah, it's a long time ago, even though we always learn some new stuff, like a little bit of JavaScript, like a little bit of Ruby. So Swift is the big thing. I love the fact that we have a REPL, so I forgot what it stands for, but it's basically a command line tool that allows you to play around. And also the other thing we have is Playground, which is very nice. So gone are the days of having to make a new project and compile or something like that. I know there were some other options, editors that allows you to run Objective-C, but so that's kind of a big move. The other things that are really awesome are the whole connectivity, continuity thing, and the extensions. I think the extensions is a big thing on iOS. For example, the fact that you can plug an app, like I have those two guys which I've been with the whole week, which I'm going to introduce to you. They do an amazing Wikipedia app called Wikilinks, and they are super happy about the fact that when you're going to find something on Wikipedia, you're going to be able to like share and like export and be launched automatically to their app Wikilinks. Plus, I love the fact that the notifications, you can now plug into the notification and do some kind of widgets, which is awesome. The only thing that I don't like over there is that you apparently still need to give a face to your app, so you need to do an actual app rather than having just, like a plugin.
Right.
Because that makes so much sense for so many apps. So that's it. CloudKit is also very interesting, although I never know. When Apple starts playing around with web technologies, I'm always afraid.
Yeah, I think any of us that have gone through the iCloud iterations, we have to have a question in our mind. I mean, it's just that's the way it is. I'd like to think that this time they'll get it right, because certainly the way that they're implementing it is very exciting for Mac users, for iOS users. It really will change the game in so many ways that I don't think we even fully appreciate yet.
No. And actually, I'm keen on seeing the sessions now. They're going to become available in the next hours for everybody here, because there are 4,000 new APIs. That is a lot, actually. that is a lot. I can tell you it's a lot. So I'm keen on. I'm sure, because from my experience on DubDub, it so is that over the sessions you discover the new stuff, and you're like, whoa, okay, that's cool also. And so there's going to be a ton of stuff. And it's funny also about Swift, because I'm here in San Francisco since last Monday, so I've been a full week here. And one of the thing that I did last week is that I was at the other conference called Ruby Motion, which or Inspect is the conference from the Ruby Motion guys. For those who don't know, Ruby Motion is basically a set of tools which allows you to write iOS, OS X, and now Android apps with Ruby and gems and whatnot, and so I was really happy about what they bring, and then I started to hang around with Laurent, which is a Belgian guy, just like I am, who worked for Apple in many years long on Mac Ruby, and then he managed to get Mac Ruby open sourced, and then a couple of years later, Bertrand Serlet left the company, and so did Laurent, because kind of Bertrand Serlet was protecting him, and Apple wanted him to work on iCloud, basically. Basically, he didn't want to work on iCloud. He wanted to keep on working on Mac Ruby. So he set up his company, started Ruby Motion. There is a growing community, very interesting. And while I was in the car with him last week, he told me, like, I've heard this rumor that there is a new language coming from Apple. I was like, what? What? Where you heard that? Well, he said, well, I've heard, but I don't know much more about that. So I'm pretty nervous. And so I don't really know what will happen now with them. Interestingly enough, I saw on Twitter that it was yesterday at Google, at Google's headquarters. So I don't know if Google has any interest in Ruby Motion or whatever. I have no idea. But it's very interesting that Apple finally made it to make a new language, because we all know they have like kind of shared really protected Objective-C and defended Objective-C a lot of time. But yeah, I'm excited to learn a new thing. It's kind of a new restart, new refresh. And as of next week, I'm going to be really seriously learning Swift. And that's it. I'm a Swift developer.
And it feels like this is the right time for Apple. If they're going to do that, now's the time to do it. I don't know if they're at a peak, but they're certainly, iOS continues to be a dominant player. And if they can demand the developer community learn a new language, now's the time to do it.
Yeah.
as one of our earlier guests said, then maybe at some point they'll enhance it with things that aren't in Objective-C and start pushing, more and more of the apps, or maybe give access to the processor different areas.
Yeah.
So it's just it suddenly changes the game in so many ways.
Well, I had in the past I was teaching iOS development to new developers, and I can tell you, obviously, like everybody knows, it's not simple. Like a lot of people, they just block at the beginning with the Objective-C syntax and the square bracket, by the way, which is also in my logo, which I'm going to have to change. Thank you, Apple, for screwing my branding. So the square bracket gang, as French used to call it, and all those stuff, which are so different in Objective-C than anything else. This new language, Swift, seems to be so much similar to JavaScript, Python, and Ruby. And those three guys are known by a huge community of web developers. So the syntax is not really an obstacle anymore. Sure, learning Cocoa is still kind of not so easy, but it's going to be easier. Plus, there are some added benefits to that, like things like generics, which I remember from back in the days when I was a .NET developer. So don't tell anybody, but I used to be a .NET developer like 6 or 7 years ago. My kids don't know about that, by the way. I'm trying to hiding that past. But generics are pretty cool, actually. Or namespace, the fact that we are not going to have to use prefixes anymore. Which, by the way, kind of ruins the old conferences name, like NS North and NS Conf and NS whatever, because NS is not going to be a thing anymore. But yeah, that's definitely going to bring more developers, and we see more and more developers coming. And now, if they were coming already with the Objective-C kind of obstacle, then now with Swift it's going to be even easier. So the one thing which is sure is that they're going to have a problem with the conference, because if this year more people wanted to attend, so many people wanted to attend, next year it's going to be even more. So I don't know what Apple is going to do about that. I think they're in trouble. Like, the only thing they can do is exactly like this year. And I can tell you, as much as AltConf is awesome, and I praise the guys, they did an awesome job, the truth is that it's still kind of frustrating for me not to have a ticket to be in front. And seeing all those guys wearing those 14 jackets, I have a 13 jacket, they look exactly the same. But it's kind of, yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, maybe your next, no, I was about to suggest that your next project is bootleg jackets. No, let's not go there. Where do we send people to learn more about all your apps and everything you're doing?
So, objcgn.com. If you cannot remember that, remember swiftconf.com. It's 4 words. Diskalarm.com. Then there's Comments.app.com. If you want to see some old school funny podcast, I used to do those kind of stuff. So this is why it's familiar to me. I interviewed Woz. Go check out Pomcast, just like an apple in French, POMCAST.com. If you follow it by /Woz, there is an interview with Woz in 2007. It's so funny. And you want to check out the app from the guys that I'm helping out a little bit here, which is this awesome Wikipedia app called Wikilinks. So that's WIKILINKIS.net, and it's an awesome app. They have like 6,000 comments. I'm jealous, actually. That's why. But that's it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. It's great to see you.
Thank you for having me. Yeah. Bye. Cheers.
Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. MacVoices is in San Francisco for AltConf and WWDC, and we will be back. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for links, show notes, to subscribe, to connect with Chuck on Twitter, app.net, Google+, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter, the MacVoices Dispatch, to stay up to date with all the latest MacVoices news from our front page or at macvoices.com/newsletter. Advertising and sponsorships handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com.